In a world that walks the line, there's a rare few who think outside the box together for the crew. To break the equations, not bound to any rule. Exposing to the world the universe's own view. It takes the talent of the craftsman, it takes the mind of the fool, to make the vision realize energy and matter in a duel. To a break, to a duel. The old man, bills was running through his head. Cheryl probably got it hiding under his bed. Penny up the ante, making power for days. Don't listen to a word that the straight dope says. Mike building batteries to power a ship. Victor comes and talking math, that's the water spiral dip. Sean chucking plasma volts a mile long. Sheila on the video making tone chucking prongs. Bernie breaking matter, they said it couldn't be done. And to all the people in the chat, I know you're having fun. So it's time to spend your Saturday with the doping old man Bills.
Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Builds. What's going on, guys? Joe's going to be out today. He's got some company at the house. He might stop in, he might not later, but if he doesn't, then I wish him well with the company, man. Hey, we're going to talk some ions today, guys. I'm excited. We're getting ready for Tesla Tech. So what's going on is right now I'm building all the slides and everything, going through all of the RAV stuff, going through the Gravity Flyer stuff. And what we're trying to do is just build a case for inertial mass reduction. So in order to do that, the whole premise of it is you got to have ions. So I wanted to touch on that subject today, man, and really go into it, man, and see exactly what they are, because I don't think a lot of people understand. Even when you Google what an ion is, I don't think that they have any good pictures of it at all. So what's up, guys, man? This is going to be fun. Okay. So what is an ion? Basically, it's light in a vortex. That's the simplest way to understand it. You say, okay, well, how would you know that? Well, every time we create the RAV, we start to understand lensing, and it's like a, how do I say it? Like you're looking down at a lamp with a lens, and it's focusing the light. Well, that's basically what it does in space. It focuses the light, and what it does is it creates a vacuum inside of it. As soon as you create the vacuum, energy swirls around it. And as soon as energy swirls around it, you have an ion. So what happens from there? See, it can't sustain itself forever, so it has to have some type of energy to go around it. So you get what you have is an electron effect, which is your magnetodielectric that wraps around it. And it doesn't just wrap around it, it creates it. So just understand this. At the very base of what you're dealing with is light. Now, that seems troubling to most people. No, you can't have light. Light can't do this. It's not strong enough, not powerful enough, not focused enough. But everything else tells you different. As soon as you get into plasma physics and you start seeing it, you start to see it. As soon as you build out a RAV, what happens? It creates outer zones, which are the receipt zones, and receipt zones magnify everything like a magnifying glass, and it goes into light swirling inside of it. And as soon as light swirls inside of it, it creates a zone in there. And in that zone, all you're looking to do is to close the door on the zone. So as soon as the ions are in there, it then goes and swirls, but it can't form the zone without it having a cross field. So as soon as it hits the cross field, the energy itself turns and wraps back on each other just like a teardrop shape. As soon as it does that, the magnetodielectric that you see as your electron is created. It's an outside field boundary to the inner core, which is the ions that are compressed in there. Crazy thing is, man, as soon as you compress more of these things, the energy level spikes. It's a Casimir effect that's going on inside there. You're going to get so much extra energy coming out of there that it's going to be like 20th to the 20th power. It's humongous. Why? Because it's cold in there. You see, you're dealing with energy without heat to it. And without heat to it, it continues to increase in value of the energy. Now think about that for a minute. We deal with that with cold energy experiments, and we didn't know why. Well, this is why. When you start to compress ions, it starts to create a higher level of energy. You see, the outside itself as the magnetodielectric is your draw. In all cold energy experiments, you need a draw. You need a light bulb on the other side to turn on. You need anything to plug in, a waffle machine, doesn't really matter. You plug it in, it has a capacitor in it. It's a draw. It's pulling energy towards it. What it also is doing is pulling heat towards it. So that explains why cold energy experiments do this. You have cold energy. The only way they continue to go is you pull heat to them. So as you have a heat source to them, they continue to flow the energy through the wire. Now, look, if you don't understand the cold energy experiment, it's going to be kind of hard. So let's just try to put this in perspective. We're looking at Tesla's hairpin circuit. If you don't have a draw to Tesla's hairpin circuit, like the light bulbs that he uses, it won't work. It'll barely move. You know what I mean? It's not drawing the energy as much. It lets the energy stay where it is and contain. You get a lot of energy out of it, but you're not going to get the right pull to put it any distance whatsoever. Okay? That's the difference. So now when we look at the ion, we go back to the plasma physics and understand when they say the core is ions, that's why. You see, what else is there? You take the high voltage and you create it between the anode and the cathode, and you create what we have, the ROUs, resonance vortex, and you start to understand this. As soon as it goes and loops on itself on a teardrop, what happens? The core shows itself. It shows the ions in the core itself. We've seen this plenty of times on this channel. You start to see all the ions in there. You start to see the magnetodielectric build around it. Boom, we have a plasma ball that's running in resonance, and each one of the resonance builds out in zones. Okay, each one of it is a spherical structure. It always looks to us like it's in 2D. It's physically in 3 dimensions. Now that we know that, we know what we're creating. See, this is the most important part to anything. If you don't know what it is in the beginning, you'll never know how to use it in the end because you'll never understand the features of it. Ions are simply light that is compressed. Okay? It is energy that is turning into the light because of the compression level. That's it. That's what it is. The energy is already there. You see, this is a misunderstanding in physics. Dark energy, no dark energy. Energy does not exist without the dark energy. The dark energy is in a UV spectrum, and that's all it is. You just can't see it right. You don't understand it properly. Once you understand what it is and why it's there and why it's always in the background, then it makes it very easy to understand something. As soon as you focus light upon it, it creates a vortex in that energy right there. We see it as light. The reflective energy that comes out of it is the light. So what is the most basic way to say it? That light itself is creating a vortex in there and created the energy. That's fairly simple. You have to understand this is always a back energy layer that's going on. It's always there. It's never gone, and you can't get rid of it. The thing is, man, people don't understand that. They still debate dark matter. Is it there or it's not? I can tell you with Sean's experiments, when he starts running this thing, you start seeing the black, and you start seeing it as a formed structure. Once you see it as a formed structure, it starts to say, hey, I'm here, and I've always been here. That's kind of the point, isn't it? Isn't it? It's always there. The only thing is you can't see it. Why? Because it's not in a high enough energy state. So you go, it's just like photons and light. As soon as you have a higher energy state, you get a photon. That's it. Energy is always in the background. All you're doing is increasing it. They say it's a higher energy state. Well, there's no higher energy state without a lower energy state already there. That's pretty simple to understand. Now we get into this thing, man, and we're looking at it and we go, okay, we got this energy that's an ion, and we always see it. Magnetosphere, we have a boundary zone, we have an ionosphere. So what does that mean? Guys, that's the perfect bubble right there. Just understand this. You want a UFO, you want a bubble, that's the perfect bubble right there. It is perfect. Magnetosphere, boundary zone, ionosphere. Why? Because this is the exact way it's working out. You see, you have your magnetosphere, okay? That's your sheath layer right there. When you get to the boundary layer, that's as the ions are converting back over to the boundary layer, through the boundary layer back to the magnetodielectric. The ions themselves are vortex light, so you can see it coming out of the sky. If you ever go over there and look at this stuff, you'll see vortexes going in the ground everywhere. There's vortexes in the sky as well. It is basically given it a channel to come through and get to the magnetodielectric. As two ions come together, they create the magnetodielectric. Why is that? Because frequency controls it. So you have one side that's magnetic, one side that's high voltage, and your frequency tells it to do this. Okay? That's all it's doing. Low frequency puts them together, gives you a high magnetic value. High frequency puts them apart, gets you a very low magnetic value. That's how energy works. So if you can understand that, then that's why there's two ions in there and they're creating fields around each other. Steinmetz saw this. you see Simon's pictures and stuff. That's what he's trying to tell you. They just didn't flat out call it what it is. We know what it is because we know what the inside of an electron is. It's not hollow. It's not just an electron. The inside is ions. So once we understand this, guys, it makes it very clear. What do we have a field bubble of? The field bubble is simple, classical world physics on how it works. Okay. Magnetosphere, boundary layer, usually cold plasma is right there because the energy has to slow down to go through it. Therefore, it creates a barrier. This is the 3M experiment, if you've ever heard that term or looked it up, where the factory 3M had a problem where they created a field in there and they didn't realize how they did it. And it felt like a force field where there's barrier in there. Well, once you understand that you have probably had a broken motor when you did it, so all you're doing is running that into the air. You got hot and cold pressure going on there. Everything in that thing, in that warehouse is cold. Every warehouse is cold. They're built of concrete. They don't build them warm. They couldn't contain the tape if they did. So it has to stay at a low temperature. You're creating a heat zone within that cold temperature. You're creating a natural barrier, but it's not thick enough. You need to be able to draw the ions in. You need a malfunctioning motor in order to create it. You need to be able to throw it off. Generally, a motor in itself is just pulling in ions from the atmosphere. So what happens when it's broken? It overloads. It starts sending everything out there. You start to create zones. You're creating a hot and cold zone. You're creating an ion zone. You're creating a sheath layer. Now, in the 3M experiment, you created a boundary layer. That is what they couldn't get through. But understand that's no different than creating it up in the upper atmosphere. The understanding of that gives you your outside field bubble. That's what's interesting. You see, we look at cold energy experiments wrong in the fact that everybody thinks, oh my God, they're all electrons. No, they're not. Why? Because the actual thing that's causing impedance on your wire is the ions inside the wire. Just think about that. Why would it cause impedance for electromagnetic energy to flow on the outside of the wire like this? Why would an ion slow it down? It's trying to pair with it. It's trying to pair with it in order to make it work. And as soon as it does that, it slows down the entire process of the energy and it starts to create a heat zone. And as soon as it creates a heat zone, you start getting waste. You get hysteresis going on. You see, that's kind of the thing. So you go, okay, can this be used? Has anybody done it? Yeah, John Hutchison's done it. You look at his experiments, convert your mind over to thinking in the right place. Tesla hairpin circuit in order to create ions in a field from top to bottom. You put your milk container in there, you put a piece of iron in there, and you put a bunch of other stuff in there, and then a wrench. What happens? It starts to flow up. Why? Because you've compressed ions to the core of it. He's looking for high ion materials because as soon as you get an overload of ions in there, the ions reduce the mass because the ions themselves are light in energy. They don't contain mass. That's the thing. When you overload something with that on the outside, you change the characteristic of how it works in the air itself. Think about that. You have air, which is a value. It's thick. You breathe it. You move it. You have pressure on your body because of it. What are you doing by compressing ions? You're creating a zone where that pressure does not exist. All the air molecules now come away from that zone and are outside of it. You've now created a boundary layer right there. So what happened? It loses mass. That's exactly how the gravity flyer works. As soon as I did it on there, man, it started to lift off the weight. It started to go right on the scale and just drop weight. As soon as we understood that. You see, that's the biggest thing. You have to understand what you're dealing with. Hutchinson had understood it. That's why he did it. And you say, well, how do you have proof? Well, he's over there messing with crystal, high ion level crystal, when he's doing his experiments. He also learned Edwin Gray. Edwin Gray has a lot to do with this. If you take two weak forces and making a strong force, that's exactly what Edwin Gray did. He's over there taking a high voltage source, taking a Tesla coil source, and then he's basically putting in there like it's a piezo buzzer and then hitting the button, and the aluminum ring flies off because you're creating an AC voltage right then and there, and it gives it a giant spike. Well, if you take a motor and you only turn on the AC when you need it to be on at the top of the turn, Guess what? It goes way more with way less energy. You just removed 80 to 90% of the energy needed to run that motor. It's all you have to do is hit it at its peak spot as soon as it aligns or comes close to aligning, and boom, draw it forward. That's it. Think about that. That's all the AC motor is doing. Or when you're in triangle, delta, you know what I mean? You're looking at an AC motor that's basically hit on time at the right time with a high AC voltage, and boom, it hits. But then what's the battery draw? See, this is the difference. In regular conversion, the battery draw is still big because you're pulling amps and volts to do it. So you got a massive draw on your battery and you're draining it right away. Even Gray didn't do that because he only switched it when he needed it. So you're switching AC on demand, DC volume of energy, AC spike. As soon as he does that, boom, 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 you're hitting it at the right time. You're only using the amount of energy. And the only thing the battery has to draw on is 2 ZVSs. Think about that. That's a massive reduction in the amount of energy. Now your alternator can compensate for it, charge the batteries. You have no problem. That car will run forever. That's how you do it. That's a cold energy experiment. Once you understand the physics of how things work, you can make that thing work. John Hutchison knew that. That's why in some of his videos, you see his Tesla coil, and there's an extra wire wrapped around it, and you start seeing him with an aluminum ring, and he hits the button, and the aluminum ring flies off. You can only know that if you know Edwin Gray. Go back to the ions. He compresses ions inside of it, any kind of thing out there, and they lift. And think about how powerful that is and what that means for everything. It's basically telling you the secret to anti-gravity. There is a difference between an electron and an ion, and you must learn it. When we see the RAV, we see the ions are clearly produced. It comes right out and shows it to you. It shows its geometry inside of it. It shows you it's there. It shows you the boundary layers it creates from it. All of it's very visible. When you start to see it focus the light through lensing, you see it come down. You see it create this little half moon structure right here. And then inside that, it'll create the ions themselves. You can see them as individual balls. And then it focuses light. So what happens when on that layer right there, you get a counter rotation? It turns the envelope, makes it into a teardrop, closes it. Now you have your electron on the outside, your ions are trapped on the inside, and you have coupling going on. This is what people don't understand when they do experiments. They say, okay, I need a high frequency in the megahertz or beyond, right? And they go, I want to put it right at the core. Well, you're missing the point in the way that you're doing it, by the way. You want that to be created naturally. You don't want to try to put it in the core of it. Why? Because you'll never reach the amount of compression levels. You're doing it wrong. You don't understand the difference between a linear experiment and a 1 in 360 degrees of compression. It's a massive misunderstanding on how things work. Yes, that value is in there. Yes, it's in the megahertz or higher, maybe in the terahertz, but how you're creating it matters, because if you don't create the center right, it won't create the outside sheath layers right, which will not give you resonance on the outside. So it will not be self-structured, and it'll just be an annoying piece of equipment that doesn't work. Build it right, and then it self-functions. It automatically creates a resonance layer on the outside. You don't have to do anything to it. It creates these satellites out there. That's why it's important to build it the right way. A lot of people, when we go to do this stuff, like I do it on the show all the time, I start building stuff, and I'm trying to tell you, look, pay attention to what I'm trying to do here, because I'm building the exact structure you need for it. I'm not playing games here. You know what I mean? I'm not going out here and showing you a linear equation and telling you it has balls in it. For instance, let's look at the electron experiment. It is literally a ray tube. What does that mean? Just basically a tube, thinner here, bigger here. It's like a glass jar, except for it's compressed. Okay? They sucked out the air in it, or some of it, I should say. I don't know if they got all of it, but then they just put a filament in there. Well, what happens? Well, as soon as you put a high voltage on it, ions start shooting off of it, and then it moves to one thing, and it says it's negative, right? You go, okay, where was the ball? Where was the electron ball? By the way, that experiment won a Nobel Prize, but there wasn't any mention of any ball whatsoever in that experiment. You see, the misunderstanding is ours. It's how we interpret it. That experiment didn't lie to you in what it did. It was perfectly clear what it did. Okay. But it did not show a ball. So putting energy in balls through wires was a complete waste of time as soon as somebody said it. That was a theory that got debunked. It does not work that way. It is very simple. You have to follow where the energy tells you it is and how it shows you it creates a structure. When you know that, you can figure it out. You see, why is it so important to build it the way that we're supposed to? Because you don't have geometry within it without it. Think about what I'm trying to tell you here. If I look down on the vortex and I can tell you the peak resonance frequency of each one of them, and I say that's a node, and I draw a little circle on the node, then I go around and I say there's one here, there's one here, 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 here. I just created a geometrical shape. If I said there's one here, here, and here in a triangle shape, another geometry shape, right? Those are the peak resonance frequency nodes. When they go up, they hit their peak, resonance then drops off, they go back around to a higher level and hit a peak. That's the golden ratio, isn't it? But it's also a vortex. You see, but you got to account for the resonance within it. I could take a coil and get 6 resonance frequencies out of that same coil. It's a radio frequency method. But you can do it right on your bench. As soon as you turn the capacitor, you can turn each level of it on one at a time and isolate each one of them. Now take 6 coils and put it onto the main coil. You now have every one of the resonance frequency turned on that coil. You're literally creating the vortex in a literal form. You're literally putting that vortex together. Why? Because you're looking at how far the resonance frequency goes. As you get lower, it gets wider. Lower, it gets wider. Okay? So what does that mean? You automatically created a vortex. You see, a lot of people wouldn't know that. They wouldn't understand a Tesla coil did that. But once you do, now you can work on the beat frequency. Now you can take the vortex, you know what I mean? Bigger over here, small over here, and now you can pump it. Now you can pump it based on the beat frequency, right? You could take that and hit that beat frequency one to the next. It's like jumping on a trampoline, okay? If you get the second bounce, you go higher. You take all the amount of the energy from the first resonance frequency, bring it to the second resonance frequency, and then get a higher bounce. But then you hit the third one, get even higher than that. Then you get another one even higher than that. It feels like a Townsend effect as soon as you do it. What you're actually doing is increasing the energy by letting it bounce properly, right? Just like kids on a trampoline. You want to take every one of their bounces until you get to the peak, and then you want it to explode out. That's resonance. But that's also how vortexes are created. But if you look down on it, and I'm looking at the vortex right in front of me, every one of the nodes was my resonance peak frequency, and each one of them is a geometrical structure. What I'm trying to say to people so you understand this is it makes perfect sense in science when you have crystals that are made out of ions and you start to see them in geometrical structures when they're put together. Plasma dust does the same thing. We start looking at snowflakes that do the same thing. We're bringing structure to nature. You see, here's the thing. Electron can't do that. Understand what I'm trying to tell you? An electron can't do that. When you get too high of an electron value goes in something, it creates too much heat and it burns it up. You need ions. When you create the ions, you could put the wire into the water and it'll nourish the plant. It'll make it grow faster. But when you do it with a electron, what happens? It fries the plant. You say, well, we put magnets in there, Nathan, and it does the same thing. Yeah, because you're putting the seed in the center of the magnetic field in a donut-shaped magnet. And as soon as you do that, what does it do? It compresses ions to the center. This is John Bedini all day. You say, well, what do you mean? Well, John Bedini always talked about the batteries, and at any time that they had these cells in there that had holes in them, they would fill up with energy inside of it and compress that energy to the center. He was directly talking about the ion level in the battery and how it compressed in this cold energy state. Now it starts to make sense. Cold energy experiments are ions. Why do we want ions in everything? As a natural process, we pull ions from our ionosphere down into things if they're high enough in height. Then it can drop it right into the ground and you get telluric current. Telluric current is created when you take ions from the ionosphere and put them into the ground, which acts as a battery. You're going to get a telluric current. But then again, that's not how a battery works. That's why that effect exists. That's why when you go to Egypt, they have all those little tower things out there. You go to the Egyptian pyramid, you stand on top, you could take a Leyden jar and fill it up with energy because it's pulling ions from the ionosphere. What happens if you put a top on that to focus it, and then you take the rest of the pyramid and you make it wet? You see, this is another thing we did. This is exactly the hairpin circuit. If you take the hairpin circuit, the energy in water expands as a capacitor. It has a higher value inside of it. You can take an orange and cut it in half and pull it apart and put your hand in between it. One side connected to nothing but a light bulb, the other side connected to the energy, and it makes the energy zone right in the center of it. You could put your hands and disrupt it because it's a field going like this. This is Steinmetz. It's creating that field. What is that? That's your ion field. That's where all that energy comes from. You're pulling it directly out of the atmosphere itself. You see, they say it's higher voltage the higher you go, right? 100 volts per meter. What they're not telling you is what the energy is. This is why corona motors have hard times getting started because they're ion-based. We can only stop and trip out a corona motor by taking high voltage and running ions off the high voltage in order to get it running. Think about what I'm saying. This isn't hard to understand. High voltage puts off ions. It puts off ion wind. We understand that. But it's a concentration of ions that we're putting on the shaft itself for getting it to rotate. That's a corona motor. Okay? What are we doing? Ions from the ionosphere are pulling into it, and we're getting it to rotate on that value. You say, well, it's a very weak value, and you're correct. Okay? So how do you get such a big energy out of it? You see, we already solved this with the poles that are going around for our electricity. We take our magnetodielectric, we strip out a lot of the magnetism out of it, we put a high voltage value to it, millions of volts, we run it over to poles, we put them in this little bucket that comes in there. What's in the bucket? A three-phase transformer's inside that bucket and has mineral oil compressing it. When you take high voltage energy and compress it in a transformer, in that material, okay, you automatically have a massive amount of compression. Your compression goes into how much magnetism you get. You're converting your high voltage into a lower voltage that goes out as AC to each one's home. Wow. How do you take cold energy and convert it? It's the exact same process. You are taking ions and converting them. When Bedini did it, he says it comes out regular energy on the other side. So what's happening? The compressive value is taking the ions and forcing them together to make a magnetodielectric field. It's coupling the ions together in order to make the magnetodielectric, which comes out as regular energy again. We have to realize that it's ions, guys. You have to realize that. As soon as you do, then physics becomes very easy. Why does it become easy? Because as soon as you get to chemistry, They start telling you about the ion level in chemistry. Now realize there's no difference here. If you take gold and you put certain chemicals in it, solid piece of gold, it will literally look like water that's yellow. Not gold as you pour it, like you would heat it up and pour it, but water as it was yellow. Then you pour a couple more chemicals in it and it creates the gold again. Understand that. Your chemistry is linked to how it works in high voltage. Once you understand that, you understand growth processes and how things convert from one thing to another. You want to convert all of your high voltage over to a liquid form where it reconstitutes to a solid form. You have to get to the biology part of it, and that's only in liquid. When you start converting it that way, it starts to make sense. Why are some things unstable when you build them? Element 115 is unstable. You need a medium to build it in, some kind of base in chemistry to build it in. Then it becomes stable. What are you using at that point? It's still gold in there. There are still particles of gold in there. Just understand that. People use this technique all the time. This isn't something out of the blue. They strip computers for the gold out of it, and they use this process all the time in order to get their gold. But then that's chemistry. Understand that you guys are going on from electricity and light to chemistry and then back again. That's our conversion process. John Bedini did it. He was talking about transmutation. That's fascinating. That's how he did it. You have to understand what ions are and why they do what they do to understand all of it. It is the transformational process. Thunderstorm generator. We're ionizing the air itself. Why? Because we're going to break the bonds of it. And as soon as we break the bonds of it, we can reconstitute it in whatever we want based on the resonance that we put into it. That's why the shells themselves are the exact sizes they are, because they're putting a resonance boundary on it. It's reconstituted the way he wants based on those boundaries right there. Why? Because as soon as you build the RAV out and you put the ions in the center, it builds out boundary layers at resonance levels. Why? Because as soon as you see resonance in a string, one, a double, then it triples, then it quadruples. You're going on the harmonic of it. All of it's linked together. You can't unlink it. They try so hard in physics to do this. They try so hard to avoid the obvious that's right in front of them. They see it, they don't call it as it's supposed to be called. Why? Because they have to admit something. Walter Russell was 100% right. Walter Russell had it right. He saw something that he didn't know how to describe that was 100% right. From the lensing of how it goes through things, how light actually progresses and makes things, to whether he called it a male and female based on how he sees bonding going on in biology. It wasn't some thing that he threw out there as some cult or a different understanding of Jesus or anything like that. He's trying to describe a process that he saw, and he can only give you the pictures that appeared in his head, but every single one of them matches the RAV and the plasma physics that you do. You see, one shot unlocked the fact that you can run this thing forever and you start getting a lot of data out of it, and it doesn't just look like a ghost in the wind. You started to realize Walter Russell was right. So what does that mean for a scale? Positive, negative. Remember I told you how resonance works. Peak, drop off. But it doesn't necessarily drop off, does it? You see, there's a positive side, peak. Counter-rotationally, there's a negative side, peak. They're equal amount of energy in a vortex. Each one peaks as the other one falls. This one hits its height, then falls. This one hits its peak. As they build out, they're counter-rotational of each other. So when you look at a scale, you have to understand it in that way. As soon as you look at a scale, understand why there's a positive and negative side to it. Each side of the vortex has a node in the center. Vortex on top, vortex on bottom, node in the center. Now understand that the resonance frequencies themselves are over there making the element that you want. Why? Because if you look at an atom, you have a center core, and then on the outside of it, you have the electrons, is what they call them. When you do that process, those things build out naturally. They're an energy exchange. The amount of energy for the entire circle is equal to the amount of energy in the satellite. But the size difference is what they are. You see, the amount of energy here versus the amount of energy here is exactly the same. But the size is big here and small here. That's the way it works out. We see it in the atom. The atom is the same thing as we do in plasma physics. It is controlled by ions in the center. I say that can't be true, Nathan. Well, have you seen the inside of an atom? I said, oh, we hit this collider and it knocked some things together and we saw something. That's not a picture of the inside. We took a big old electron microscope and we put it over there and we looked at it. What did you see? We saw a shell. So you have no idea what's in it. Okay, should have said, I have no idea what's in it. Then we could have advanced the conversation much faster. So you wasted my time. They don't know what's in it. The only way that we've ever seen anything work out is in plasma physics as soon as we create the ions in the center. When you scale it down, it works perfectly fine. It becomes a mechanical system. As soon as you have too many ions compressed together, what happens? Rotation the same way, rotation the same way, rotation the same way, rotation the same way. When you have too much energy in there and it can't get out, one becomes counter-rotational. That's pretty simple, right? That's not hard. That's how it stops it from exploding. But what does that mean? As your rotational energy of sheath layer was going like this, you just created a separate vector direction. As soon as you create a separate vector direction, now I have one here goes here. What happens when I compress the core a lot harder? I get another one. You see, I'm building out an atom. So what happens when you have two layers cross each other? Now we can fold it like a teardrop. The energy's here on this layer. I now need this one to come over top of it as this one's going this way. This one must go over top of it like this. It now creates the folding. You took that little vortex where all that energy was coming through and it was presenting and spitting out. Now, you've enclosed it into the teardrop and created your satellite. You have electrons inside. You have ions inside. You have an electron on the outside. Now you have an atom. As soon as you change the ion layers and compression of any of this stuff, you change which atom you have. It's that simple. You see, now that you understand what you're playing with, you start to see everything correctly. Man, if it builds out an atom, it builds out on the bench as plasma physics. As soon as we get to a world level, what is it doing? See, this is why the RAV looks so much just like the sun itself. Because it's doing the same process. It's a repeating pattern. It's creating every single one of the planets out there as a satellite to the sun. And it automatically does it. Was the moon created by pulling things in? No. It was automatically created. When you hear the Bible story, it took 7 days of creation. Well, there you go. It took that long in order to get some mass out of it, in order for it to create the initial inside core structure. Remember I said core structure. It's going to accumulate mass. I say that's not possible. You can't take energy and accumulate mass out of it. You got to pull it in from somewhere else. Mass isn't light. It can't create that. Sure can. As soon as you have a boundary layer and you start to create plasma dust, what happens? You see, plasma dust forms together and it starts to create a particular rock. I can't remember the name of it right now. It'll come to me. It's black. Okay. And it'll form around that sheath layer. But what happens in it? You have holes in it, things like that. Well, each one of them acts as a resonance chamber based on the frequency inside the chamber. So what do you get next? You start to get crystal. Once you get crystal, you get more dust. You say, man, that sounds a lot like the moon. We got a lot of ion crystals on the moon. We have a lot of dust up there. Okay. All we had to know was how it was built. It accumulates its layers by being able to change the atomic structure on the inside of it. So if you think of it as a big atom, then guess what? You start to build out organics and things like that. If they want to know anything, you need liquid, right? In the end, they're all gases, guys. Gas is created by the frequency of the stuff on the outside converts over to your liquid. Just understand what that means. It means the conversion process is much easier than you think it is. You don't have to go through 1,000 different words in physics. You don't have to get over there and shove your book your face into a book for about 10 years to figure this out. It's playing out right in front of your eyes. You're seeing this as it's built on a world scale. How do we know what's in the core of any of these planets? Because the gas giants told you they did. They have plasma cores. You have plasma cores, this thing builds out in resonance on the outside layer. It takes on a wind layer that swirls the energy. Earth does the same thing. It creates a boundary zone in the center, which as the energy comes down, it goes just like this. And it comes back around. But then it'll do it on the bottom as well. That's what it's doing. Hey, I want to shout out Darren out there, man. Thank you for the super sticker, man. Appreciate it. When we look at the stuff in the correct context, I just want you to understand this. It doesn't matter if we're in the atomic scale, we're in a benchtop scale, or if we get out to the planetary scale. This is how it builds out. But what does that tell you? Ions are responsible for gravity. I want you to think about that. If the core of your planet is plasma, if the core of your atom is plasma, ions, both have the core of ions, they both build out plasma. Your benchtop is doing it. What are you missing? You're missing the amount of compression at the core. You need the energy levels to increase by a lot in order to make gravity, or do you? Can you use an additional source that's already there in order to get the extra value needed? Planets don't have that advantage in order to get their gravitational field. But you do. You have the planet's gravitational field, which is already 360 degrees of compression. You're already starting out a zone that has air molecules everywhere. Now it should hit you pretty hard. All I had to do this whole time is compress the ions into a form to create a gravitational field, which a gravitational field in gas is far less in weight than the gas itself. Therefore, it rises. You didn't create any propulsion at this point. You just let it do a natural thing. You literally took the ions and understood what they were for and then put them around something. You use the understanding of Hutchinson. You use the understanding of plasma physics. You use the understanding of your planet. Magnetosphere, boundary layer, ionosphere. What happens in the Gravity Flyer project when we do this? As soon as you take on the high voltage and you put it out there and the ions are flying off of this thing, you're creating layering. You're doing the same thing that it's doing in the RAV. You're doing the same thing as it does in your planet's core. You're creating gravitational field. As soon as you do that and you turn on your Tesla coil, the hairpin circuit of your Tesla coil, not a regular outside Tesla coil number 2, the hairpin circuit of your Tesla coil, you now create the boundary zone. Whatever was going off in your room at a very high voltage because it was spraying everywhere with the DC flyback, and it was on those rotational discs at the top and the bottom, kind of rotating, it's flying all over your room. And everything's beeping, okay? Your computer's going off, it's changing the values on your computer, it's changing the website, everything. Turn on that hairpin circuit, boom. Immediately all that stops. And a field layer is now built. You can literally take a light bulb and go around the entire thing and find it. That's impressive. Why? Because it's ions in the ionosphere that are pulling towards it, that's making it thicker. You're using entropy in a system for the first time. You now understand the hot and cold and why it matters, because it matters the molecules that are inside of it itself. Whether they're ions of energy that are around you or whether they're molecules of air. You take air and structure it. You are in radiation. This is why I have such a problem with people understanding a Tesla coil as static electricity, because it's not. When you compress energy, you are in radiation. You are not in static electricity. Static electricity is like taking pantyhose over 2 rollers and putting a brusher on it and letting it run. That's static electricity. It's a very high charge state. It is not your ion level. Sorry, it's not. What you do when you press coils together is you compress the magnetodielectric into an ion field. As you do that and you create the conversion, you get a high spike of radiation. Now, if it's in the ion side of it, you get, helpful radiation that we get nourish our body outside as soon as we walk outside. If you get it in the magnetodielectric radiation, you're creating a death core. You are literally killing everything in your room. You will literally do it. There's no getting around that. That's why it's not static electricity. You put out the energy and don't make your hair stand up. It'll burn the living daylights out of you. Only one thing burns you like that. When you look at it and that thing is ice cold and it's burning your finger, only radiation accounts for that. Depends which one you have. You see how simple that is? It's an occurrence of energy. You just had to understand it. You say, well, that can't be true. You can't compress energy and make radiation. How do you think X-rays are created? You literally take it in the tube and you're compressing it inside the tube in order to take the energy and make it into a radiation value in order to push it right through that little screen and show your little bones. Tesla created a version that was good for you, while most people use the version that's bad for you. How would he do that? That doesn't make any sense. They all got to be the same, right? No, because energy levels are different in ions than they are in electrons. He was creating his in ions. When you create it using the hairpin circuit, you're in ions. When you create it using the Tesla coil wire, you're bringing all the heat in the world and you're going to get hurt. It's something you don't forget when you create it in your lab, something that you'll remember forever. Radiation. Cold energy is simply ions, dude. Radiant energy, ions. That's it. That's all that's in the atmosphere is ions. So how do we create this boundary in order to make it into a higher form of energy? Well, that part's simple, right? Bedini already told you the answer. Put it into a capacitor. Take the energy and put it in the capacitor and force the two ions to connect together to make a magnetodielectric, which gives you your regular energy. Boom, done. How do we create a higher value? Put it into a transformer, go ahead and put mineral oil all around it and compress it. We'll create a higher magnetic field in there. We'll drop the frequency of it and we'll have usable energy. The conversions are right in front of you. You use them daily. You don't realize it, but you use them daily. Okay. This is why things are so hard to understand, because we use the wrong words to understand them. Now that we unify the words, we can change it. When we get to an atom, again, it's a mechanical process. Let me tell you something right now that they don't want you to know. When you create a mechanical process, it means that it's a repeating cycle. As soon as you have a repeating cycle, all the exotic physics and math goes out the window. It all becomes useless. Now it's all understandable. It's all predictable. It is literally, and I mean this, it is literally a zip file that has an unpacking code that tells you how to put things into equilibrium, not equals, equilibrium. And then everything builds on that. All the exotic stuff goes away. Now we start using math to verify the answer instead of trying to predict it, because it's horrible at predicting. Why? Because you can manipulate the math. I'll give you an energy exchange example. If I have values over here and I have a fraction on this side of my energy, and I want to exchange it to this side, I have regular energy, I want to convert it over to my hairpin circuit. On this side, if the fraction's there, the math would tell you, let's flip the fraction so that we can cancel things out in equals, right? That's exactly what they do in math. No getting around it. In algebra, they just make equals, so they want to flip it over and cross things out. Multiply it to both sides, however you want to say it. What's the problem? This value is in equilibrium with this value. It does not have the same numbers and same fraction in it. You're taking an electron and converting it to ions. It will not have the same thing on both sides. It cannot physically do it. It must look different on the left side than it does on the right side, because it's not equal in the way that you are thinking it is. Remember when I tell you the outside field zone is equal to the satellite. Outside field zone big, satellite real small. Equal in energy level, completely different in size. This side of the equation cannot look like this side of the equation at all. In equilibrium, it does not work. Math trying to define it is like walking around blind with no direction. You're just miscellaneous throwing things in there that have no way of being in there correctly. Because as soon as you have to build it, all of that has to change. All of it. Every bit of it has to change. That engineer has to convert it the correct way. He has no choice. He cannot play math games with it. He has no choice. It must be the way that it is in order for it to convert correctly. Therefore, they must be different on each side. It's a simple understanding. It's one that you should always have with you and understand things properly. Now you understand. We live in equilibrium. So what do I mean by things become mechanical in an atom? As you have rotational values, you have a vector direction. Okay, that's just what they call it in physics, vector direction. All of them go in the same vector direction, right? So what happens when you have energy doing that? It creates a little field around it. Okay, that's great. It hasn't converted over to an electron yet. It's still in an ion form. It has a little field around it, which maps perfectly, by the way, when you do an atom. That's all they are. Little cores, field around it. Okay? They cluster together. Well, ions cluster together. Okay, not a problem, right? We're on the same page. I need it to be mechanical now. I'm going to throw out all the garbage that didn't make any sense in math, and I'm just going to go with a mechanical value. As soon as they're all going this way, I now get too much compression in there, so one now changes its vector direction. That's mechanical. Purely mechanical. The energy level stated that as soon as I got too high of an energy value, instead of exploding, I converted. It's like if the sun doesn't create the north and south and flip the poles every so many years, it'll explode, which eventually it will when it loses the ability to do it. We look at the center of this thing the same way. I need the value going this way. Now I'm going to have a counter rotational value. As soon as I do that, I've created the teardrop over here for the satellite to form my electrical value around it, magnetodielectric, with my ions in the center of it compressed. Now I'm an electron. Now, how does this work out? Well, now let's look at the understanding of magnetism versus your proton and neutron in the center. Your proton is conventional rotation. Your neutron is a different vector direction. Now there could be multiple ones going in a single way. It could be an individual one. Your amount of neutrons tell you which magnetic value you have. Think about what that means. It's literally telling you which field that you're in. You go, oh man, I'm in diamagnetics, ions. Completely repulsive to the magnetodielectric. You're in an ion state. You go, man, I have ferromagnetics. Well, guess what? There's your magnetodielectric. You go, it's paramagnetic. Oh, well, that sounds a lot like a boundary zone. You say, well, how do you mean? Well, aluminum is paramagnetic. And as soon as you get to aluminum, guess what? Your energy stays off the surface of it. And it has trouble converting anything through it. That sounds like a boundary zone to me. You literally understand the neutron value. You can understand which magnetic field. What did I just do? I just took all the mystery out of magnetism for you. It is a direct relationship based on the vector direction of the inside core of the ions themselves. I no longer have a mystery of magnetism. It creates based on the vector direction that it goes inside and how much compression and energy level is there. That's it. That's simple. You see, things don't have to be this hard. I don't have to say a bunch of fancy words, tinker with a bunch of math. I just have to be able to build it. As soon as you build it as an engineer, you look at it and you go, man, this works out perfect. Now it's a mechanical system. How many can I get to turn one way versus the other? How many do I want it this way versus how many do I want it this way? Now what am I doing? I'm deciding at which layer, the boundary layers on each one, that I'm putting the electron on each one of them. Which one am I putting the electron on each one of them? I am literally making the atomic structure for every one of them based on the rotational value of the inside of the core, based on which way my positron and my neutron, and based on the way that they're turning. I need you to understand the simplicity of this. You say, man, that seems like a lot. A lot compared to what? I don't have 10 stacks of books over here to go through to give me the wrong answer. I clearly just have an experiment that tells me the answer because it's working that way. Protons, neutrons, vector direction. They build out your magnetics in a very specific way. You literally have this whole thing worked out. Everything's in equilibrium. It's never in equals. It's the biggest part of math that's wrong. Never an equals, always an equilibrium. What does that mean? Equilibrium accounts for the 4-leaf clover instead of all the 3 leaves. 3 leaves, so you'd say, oh, we can't create a 4th leaf clover. It's impossible. Well, unless you're in equilibrium. Then it can create the 4-leaf clover as an abnormality. Why does that matter? Because now you understand why we have these things. If everything was equal, you would never have a 4-leaf clover. It would be impossible. It'd violate the laws of physics. But we're not in equals. We're in equilibrium. Therefore, as soon as it throws out an anomaly, all it does is make sure the anomaly survives. It gives it extra values in order to understand it. When I say there's an unpacking code, all the packing code is telling it is, hey, you're making this one structure. If something gets in the way and creates an abnormality, fix it. Now we start to see those things show up all the time. You are transforming things all the time. The things on the planet may not look the same in a couple million years than they do right now. Our past may look completely different than what our time is now. On this simple effect, everything builds out on a packing code until it runs across abnormality, it will not fix for it. Therefore, every single solar system is completely different. They don't argue this. They know it is. We are now starting to understand it properly. Walter Russell was right. Terrence Howard was right. These people try to debunk them are imbeciles. I can't tell you how much, man, I look down on all that. They're trying to take certain facts and, put them into an order that makes sense in order to debunk you. I literally saw somebody go over there and take electrical theory or whatever, electrical universe, and try to debunk it. Hey, genius, where the fuck's the energy coming from? I mean, simple question. How did you get it? We have solar panels that literally tell you light converts over to energy. Please tell me, Mr. Moron Debunker, how the hell that happened? Oh, couldn't be. Only standard model. Standard model is an explanation of what they can already see formed, not how things are formed. It is literally looking at the apple that fell off the tree and hit you in the head. Okay? It's already manifest. There's already an apple. It's not telling you how the apple was built. It's telling you there was an apple. A debunker is an imbecile in this industry. You literally have to follow the energy. There's no getting around it. Just follow it. One thing to the next. How does it build out? Why is it building out this way? What did you learn, right? I've seen things out there, guys, all the time that try to explain Tesla coils, okay? And they go, oh, well, you got to take a Tesla coil. In order to get energy in another Tesla coil, it has to match it 100%. So you got to take the same circuit and the same value and put it in the other one, and it'll be exactly the same. What a bunch of horse shit. That doesn't work. All you're doing is lying to people. That doesn't work worth a damn. What do you have to do? You have to take your original coil, start it up, find the value of it. What is the resonance frequency? Then you just take a number 2 that matches the exact same resonance frequency, and boom, you got the energy. You didn't need any of the other stuff. You literally got the energy from it. Man, I could do it 11 feet in my room, no problem. For those of you that set off a Tesla coil, 5 feet's the max you can get usually. Why? Because I'm resonating the air with it. I have a very specific frequency going through the air and it hits a very specific winding that creates the energy. I'm literally using the air and creating an unrest in the air in order to turn the other one on at a distance. You do not have the right understanding of how two Tesla coils work. Physics doesn't understand resonance. Spooky at a distance. They don't get it. They've never created it. They've never worked with it. It's all numbers on a plan. I'll tell you why. Go to any AI, any one of them. Ask them what you get with a Tesla coil. They're going to give you the exact same answer. Then ask them what happens when you put a rod down the center of it. No freaking clue. Same answer. Physics gives you the same exact thing. So plenty of physicists tell me the same thing. Is it true? No. You put a rod down the center, you create the hairpin circuit. Why is it? Hairpin circuit works real simple. You have basically a Tesla coil, you have an outer one side winding, comes around, you have a light bulb on this side in a C shape right here, light bulbs in the center, here. It comes off and goes like this on both top and bottom. What are you doing? You're compressing your magnetodielectric field into a single run of ions. That's what you're doing. So what does it do when you put a rod down the center of your Tesla coil? It creates a hairpin circuit. 360 degrees, okay, of your magnetodielectric to a single point in the center. It's now splitting them. You're now getting ions out of it. That's a hairpin circuit. You don't have to build it any other way. Whether it's a C shape going into this or it's a 360 degrees going into the center, all you did was change the geometry. No sense in getting confused on it. It does the exact same thing. Physics doesn't recognize that. They think energy cancels. But they have a law that says the energy cannot be created or destroyed. If energy cannot cancel, if you say energy cancels and then you tell me that I can't destroy energy, just understand what you're telling me. You have a very, very clear contradiction. In order for it to be canceled, it has to be destroyed. It's going nowhere. They didn't say converted. They said it cancels, meaning it's destroyed. You cannot cancel energy. Okay? You can couple the capacitance of it to a higher magnetic value, but you cannot cancel it. Sorry, doesn't work. What they told you was a lie. And they said it in their own rules. You cannot destroy energy. It converts it. Now understand that meaning inside a geometry coil. If I'm taking one layer, putting it over top a second layer, each one of them are controlled by a different circuit. Then I do it again and again and again, thousands of times. Same thing as this. 2 layers, same thing. 2 layers, same thing. Geometry coil circle, inner open circle in the center. I have now converted a magnetodielectric into ions into this whole thing. It always goes to the open zone in the center because they like to pull together in the center of everything. That is the answer to a geometry coil. It's making ions in the center. It's making the hairpin circuit thousands of times in a row in order to create a high electrical value of ions in the center. They must be converted the same way. They call them cold energy. It's all converted the same way through capacitors. Again, guys, we talked about Edmund Gray. We're talking about the hairpin circuit. We're talking about geometry coils. We're coming up with the same answer. We're talking about the ionosphere. We're coming up with the same answer. Every time we look at it, we're creating the same answer. They pull together. They act in a very predictable pattern. You have to convert them back the same way. Simple as it gets. What's the mystery here? We call it everything's 50,000 different names. I don't care if you're on the fringe side saying cold energy all day long. You're still calling it the wrong thing. Cold energy, radiant energy, okay? Same thing. Exact same thing. Negative energy, exact same thing. All of it's ions. Once you realize that, it falls right into physics. Now it's an understanding in physics. Oh, you can have all this stuff that works as a great understanding of energy in an ion? Yeah. Well, what does that mean? Now I have to change some of the stuff in regular physics to match it because now I know what the ion is. I'm not just smashing two electrons together and getting an ion. There is a purpose that it comes out. We don't have magical fairy dust. Okay? When two electrons hit each other, you're not having a fairy dust coming out going, woo. No. Boom. Ion breaks loose. The ion was always there. Ion was always there. Man, no magical fairy dust. It all starts in the beginning. That's why understanding the RAV and how it converts over and how it goes in and starts new things is very important. Now, I'm telling you this, guys, I have all the receipts. We have all the pictures, all the videos, everything. That's why I'm going to Tesla Tech. Because as soon as I get there, man, all this stuff, you're going to see it. I'm going to put it flat out in front of you. I'm going to show you exactly how everything converts from one thing to the next and how everything works and how Walter Russell was 100% right and how Terrence Howard was 100% right and physics was wrong. All because I understood exactly the path to get there. And not only that, I did the experiments in order to do it. So did Sean. Joe helped explain everything under the sun, man, and getting this right and showing Lorentz force and everything else in all the pictures, okay? Richard's over there working on all these programs for us, man, getting us in line, doing the math behind the scenes. Literally, guys, we have this team primed and ready to go for Tesla Tech. We're going to change this world. Or should I say we're just going to give it back what it had? There's not a bit of hieroglyphics that are running around that I can't see that doesn't have this value already written into it. Again, funny names. They take over different civilizations. Egypt was taken over, you know what I mean, by another civilization. It's not the original civilization there. You could tell by the way they write their hieroglyphs, they're completely different. You could tell by the way the energy works. You see a reed, you see the Aachen, you see the B. The Aachen is resonance. Why? Bees are attracted to resonance. The reed goes better in ions, resonance. You're creating a resonance field with ions in it in order to do both processes. Resonance. Simple as it gets, guys. It's right down to the letter. They literally put it down for you. You just couldn't read it properly. They literally told you there's big spheres of energy in Egyptian writing, which I don't even think is Egyptian. I think it's Atlantean, to be honest with you. Personal opinion. You can't even look at the Atlantic structure of Atlantis and not understand, hey, that's orgone energy. That's focused light. As simple as it gets there, man. That complete structure was focused energy. We're looking at things wrong. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here, guys. We're looking at it wrong. All these things are already written down in physics. Ionosphere, magnetosphere, boundary layer, we all understand it. You understand that as an outside field, and you can create it again in a lab, you have gravity. No, gravity is a different force. Why? Please explain to me why. If I can build it the exact same way and create the same conditions that I get in the earth in a field, why don't I have it? Oh, it's got to do with torque and all this other stuff. Yeah, those things take a play, but I already told you it rotates. I already told you something counter rotates with it. That's the torque. Papa Bale showed you. Rotate something in one direction with any kind of magnetic value on it, it starts to counter rotate on the outside of it. Vector directions inside the ions create that force. So simple. So right in front of you. You literally are telling you how it's working. Why can't you throw out a magnet in the middle of the air and have it float? Because it's not magnetism the way you understand it. It's in a sheath layer magnetism. It's different. The way it works is different. You're taking a magnet, which is a highly compressed form of something, as a strong field. You're not recognizing T.T. Brown and what he told you. Two weak fields create a strong field. Ion layer, ionosphere. Magnetosphere, magnetodielectric. Boundary zone is a strong field. Your boundary zone, where the air gets thicker, where you're compressing all of the air itself, you now have a boundary zone that is thicker and stronger than both of those two fields. Well, how does that match up? Well, you have air. I just need you to understand this. A lot of people don't get this. I move my hand, I'm moving air. The pressure against my hand comes from the air itself. When you create the boundary layer, you're stopping that inside the craft. The air's gone. The air is on the outside structure to it. You've just changed it in buoyancy. That's it. It's simple. This is not a very technical thing you were dealing with here. You're just creating a field bubble the exact same way the Earth did. And as you do it, it creates a gravity well. That's why they tell you UFOs require a gravity well. In order to change the energy itself, it must be gravitational, which means it must be gravity. That's why I laugh at people that come out with all these papers on this stuff. They literally have no freaking clue. Not one of them mentions the area around it. They think you can just shove energy with a fire hose and turn this thing on and it'll work. Why would it work? You're just blasting out energy into the environment. You're not doing anything. You have to create coupling. Coupling is capacitance in open air. If you don't create that, it's a failure. I've seen a lot of people that don't understand this simple process. High coupling beats fire hose any day of the week. Because most people are electricians. They go, hey, Mr. Old Man, I'm an electrician. Electrician, I understand. No, you don't. You don't work with this stuff. You work with regular electricity. Your rules are all governed by Steinmetz. All of them. And you're only doing the bare minimum to see what it does to make it work based on those things. You're not understanding how the cold side of the energy, the ions work. None of it. Because to you, putting the energy into the ground means you're grounding out and get rid of it. I can simply take an air core transformer, put a rod down the center of it, and I can convert that energy to ions, and I now have a huge amount of select current in my ground. I'm going to create this awesome garden out there because it's going to take all those ions and suck them up. And those plants are going to grow 3 to 4 times as fast. Electrician would never understand that. My brother's an electrician, by the way. Doesn't understand a bit of it. Okay, not even close. You tell him, hey, I'm going to go put my hands in 60,000 volts. You're absolutely insane, old man. Well, I might be a little bit of that, but it doesn't change the fact that I can't do it. I go over, turn the hairprint circuit, put my hands right in the water. Splash around a little bit. Play in the water. You mean have a happy, good old time? Doesn't affect me. That's the difference. I understand those processes and how they work. They wouldn't understand that. If you're an electrician trying to debunk me, good luck. It'll take all of about 5 minutes to sit in the same room together with my Tesla coils, and I'll just blow you right out of the water. I'll take all the things you thought were real and make them turn into something that's fairy dust right in front of your eyes without a problem. Repeatable 100%. That's the difference. I studied the energy. I figured it out. I built the things. I learned it. I didn't take my understanding from a textbook that could be wrong. I took it straight from the experiment. I literally built all the experiments to figure it out. Biggest difference in understanding this stuff, guys. I'm not saying everybody can't get there. The more people that get there, the better off we are. Be very honest with you on that. You know what I mean? If you just said, hey, I want to learn, not a problem. Let's go do it. You know what I mean? Let's sit together, man. We'll go do it. We'll have a beer afterward. That's why I don't like debunkers, because they don't have half the understanding of what's going on. Ulysses, you're awesome, brother. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, guys, we're in a little bit different of an understanding. So what happens when I take my gravity flyer and I get it to a zero value? It doesn't weigh anything. It's what the scale's telling me. I had somebody tell me, hey, it's a vibration on the scale itself that's causing it to lift. The test ran 8 minutes before I turned on the high voltage. I should say before I turned on the Tesla coil. High voltage is already on it. As far as the top and bottom plate, the Tesla coil wasn't on. And only when that was turned on did it lift. 8 minutes. If this thing's going to creep up, man, we'll just do it for 20 minutes. I don't know. You want to do it for an hour? And ain't going to move it. It's going to go like this. That's it. That's all it does. It laughs at you. Trust me, it feels like it's really laughing at you. Like, ha ha, I'm never going to lift for you, old man. That's what it feels like. And then you start to put the real understanding of how the applied physics works, and then it starts to lift. Wow, that's pretty amazing, right? What am I not hitting correctly in order to get all of it? Remember I told you the people on the trampoline? I'm getting the initial bounce. Then I'm hitting the second bounce. So I'm getting an extra value. And then I miss the bounce. What happens? Just like a kid on a trampoline, when you take their bounce, man, they hit hard and they lose all the energy. Right? Momentum is no longer on their side. They took a bounce. I took a second bounce. I lost the bounce. So I'm getting to a higher energy level without achieving my final goal. I need 5. I need to dial this thing back and forth until I can hit all 5. Multiple oscilloscopes at one time to see every single layer of it, how they apply to each other, one on top of the other, so I can see it. They're going to be in harmonics. Why? Because this is a much higher frequency in your Tesla coil than we get into the motors, which is a lower frequency in the hertz level. All I have to do is align them so my beat frequency lines up. But now I have to learn exactly how the bounce works in that beat frequency. How can I achieve taking the extra bounce? I want to create a runaway. I want the energy to get to a high level, okay? And I wanted to use each layer individually to get me there. That's when you have it. I know everybody is enamored with anti-gravity, but that's not what enamors me. That field does. It literally is something, once you build it out correctly, you could throw a baseball or a baseball bat, whichever one, I don't really care. Throw something out, throw a brick at it for all I care. It'll stop it dead in its tracks. But what does that remind you of? It reminds you of a UFO. Now think about this. When you come into our planet, right, if you're not at the correct angle, you can't get in. You hit it, you bounce off. You hit it and you bounce off. If you're not at the absolute perfect angle, you ain't getting in. NASA had to figure this out, right? So if we're using their same technology, that it should apply the same way. What happens when you shoot a missile or UFO? Bounces off. Why? You didn't hit it at the correct angle. Think about what I'm trying to tell you there. It's in open air. This is not in some vacuum chamber. In open air, a UFO will bounce things off of it. Why? It's using the exact same mechanics as your Earth. Exact same mechanics. What does that mean for you? That they created a gravity well inside of that UFO. How did we get there in the process? How do people learn this stuff? We'll start looking at stealth aircrafts. They're creating an energy field around it in order for the thing to go faster. You go, why would that help? That make a whole lot of sense, right? Unless you understand the structure in the air itself. They're literally creating a structure around it so that the wind doesn't hit them the same way and slow them down. Now think about that. You're reducing impedance by creating an electrical field around your craft, which is structuring the air around your craft, which makes your craft more aerodynamic in doing it. God, that sounds just like Tesla when he created that disc, right? And wanted to go into Mach all the time. It created a pump. You couldn't get the thing to run the correct metal inside of it without tearing the thing up. Why would it want to go into Mach? Because the rotational rate created the energy around it, which then did the same thing in water as you're doing up in the atmosphere. Hey, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? Mechanics are working the same way. It's something that was already known. Pretty interesting stuff when you start to look at it. So how do we know? Because they did it. They followed the path of it. They started to use everything that they did. Well, once you figure that out, you go, well, then how do I increase it? How do I make that barrier even better? Then you get to the point where you're like, man, I created a barrier. And now that I created the barrier, I basically have a UFO. Now the dimensional shape changes because you're not trying to match the dimensional shape of going through air anymore. You're now looking at it and how do I structure the air? Massively different. But through the same process as how you figured it out. They already have it. The United States government has it, and I'll prove it to you. As soon as I'm done building this and this thing lifts off, if I try to go down to the patent office, I will get a U.S. government agent show up, and they will take the patent and say it's national security. Or they'll throw me right in jail and say you violated national security by putting out information that was nationally secure. One of the two is going to happen. That's what you get for doing good things, huh? So just understand that they already know it. They already have it. There's no kidding around it. Doesn't mean that we can't create it. We can't do it. They rely on the debunkers out there. Here's the thing. Every single person out there who regurgitates physics is a debunker. Just understand what I'm trying to tell you because it's funny. It's absolutely hilarious. It's like Superman, giving his powers to Lex Luthor, and he goes around and he sees everything Superman does and feels out how stupidly ignorant he was. Okay? By physics being compartmentalized, everything has a different name, but it's the same process. By arguing the process, you miss the point. You're literally arguing the same thing. You both saw it in a different way. But you literally are arguing about it. Why would they have to debunk anything? Why would they have to go out there and tell you anything different? You do it yourselves. You argue with each other over different names. You're not realizing it's the same process that you're saying, and both of you are right, but you have different names for it. They've already done their job. They've created enough stirring problems inside of it that every time you get out there and you start doing this, without taking it down to a fundamental level, it just all gets lost. All of it doesn't ever put you to the right point. It never gives you the correct pathway to go through. You have to get rid of the noise. You have to turn off all the names and just look at the energy and see what it does. They don't need people to go out and debunk this stuff anymore because they basically let you guys do it yourselves. I think it's hilarious, to be honest with you. It is literally like giving Superman's powers to Lex Luthor, and he finally realizes how everything's so interconnected, and it didn't matter all the names, it was all the same goddamn thing. It's funny. It's a joke that most people won't get. No, it's got to be this way. I learned it. You know what I mean? Physics told me this, and I'm going to regurgitate it. Oh, there you go. Yeah, keep on keeping on. It's the same goddamn thing. So Joe and I laugh about it all the time because we both got it. We're both looking at each other going, Joe, this was the same process we just worked on this one, and we got into this one, and now we're doing it this one over here, and we got the exact same process on it. Mechanically, they're the same. What's the difference? Compression level, energy level? Okay. And the size. That's compression level, energy level, and the size. Once you get past that, what's the difference? What's the difference? The math will work itself out. What's the difference? That's it. That was it. Once you understood that radiation was part of it, entropy was part of the energy already, they weren't magical pixie dust. Ions didn't come out of nowhere. There's not some goat over there pooping out ions. It doesn't work that way. Okay? No magical fairy dust there. No special goats. I'm sorry, man. It's a very understandable process. You can use the chemistry and ions effect in order to change what you have and what your chemical value is, right? Think about how powerful that is. Think about the Aztec temple now. City of gold. It was not the city of gold. It was a city that makes gold. They literally had mercury running into this thing. They literally have ions from the ionosphere coming into it. Remember, you go up there on the top of it, take your Leyden jars, they fill up with energy. Why? Because they're ions from the ionosphere. You have ions going into something. You have a value in there of mercury. I simply need to change it from energy into an AC type of energy in order to get the conversion to happen. That's it. I need some kind of an ultrasound. Well, I get crystals in there. Oh, they have crystals underneath the pyramid, don't they? Oh, how funny that is. Crystals create piezoelectric energy, which gives you your double value, which gives you your AC. It is literally converting the mercury into gold. Why is it stable? Because they pull ions from the ionosphere in order to stabilize the material because they needed more of them. They needed to add to it in order to convert. So incredible, right? A misunderstanding of words gives you a misunderstanding of what's going on there. They had to burn every single thing about that temple and what the written record was because it literally gave you a conversion value, one that wrecks every single economy in the world. You'll never get that conversion value written down on paper. Just understand that very few understand it, very few ever will. And if they find you using it, they will kill you. There's no question about it. That is immediate termination. They don't even play around about it. You can't disrupt the economies of the world. Can't do it. That's why it's never written down. That's why alchemy people in there do not give you that answer and exactly which way to do it. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you guys have that point. I mean, because it's literally ions that are converting all this stuff. Cold energy is ions. Energy from the ionosphere come down. They make all this stuff work. We see the light in the process, guys. It's not a coincidence. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at a couple videos, man. I wanted to show you something. And let's see if I can't find it real quick. Because we shot in Sean's experiments pretty easy. Now you see this right there? Look on the right. You see the little half moon type of thing? Look in the center of it. Literally balls of light. Those are your ions right there. What's going on? So you can't see it right here, but there's a field that goes around this. And what happens is it doesn't have an outer field beyond that. So it can't give me the teardrop shape in order to close the loop. The ions are in there. The field around it's in there. But it's bursting out of the field that it's in right now. It can't cut it and close it. It can't give me that turn I need, okay, in a counter rotation to it in order to close the loop and give me that satellite. So it stays in this form. You literally have the little balls in there inside the form on the right. And they're the ions. This is why I tell people this is light compressed. Easiest way to see it is right in front of you. That right there will close the loop and make an electron. I'm talking about the one on the right, not the one on the candlestick thing right there with the glass, the one on the right. You notice that even out of the other one, you get every color of the rainbow. Why? Rainbow is caused by different frequencies. Look at the way it's built out. Resonance frequencies in harmonics look like that. Every one of them has a different color because they're a different frequency. Each one of them contains a different gas inside of it based on that frequency. It is literally telling you how it worked. You can't come up here and say they don't have a different frequency because they have a different color. Each one of the gases is based on the color that builds out inside of it because it's based on the frequency of it. It's giving you the answer. They're all built out in the zones. They all have sheath zones in between them. The bubble on the right is showing you the ions present inside of it. As it focuses light. Like the magnifying glass, it's focusing it through that boundary outer layer. You see them in there? Boom. It's trying to close it. It can't. The energy's all in there. Everything is about light. Now it makes more sense in Egypt, right? Why would somebody worship the sun versus all the old gods? If you knew the understanding of the light like this, that'd be a pretty damn good reason, wouldn't it? We have it. We have the understanding, guys. That purple layer cannot get around and close it off. You can see it right now. Let's see if we get another one. I love this one. Look at this. So now we see the outside boundary layer, bottom left. We see the same purple, okay, right there. And then it comes around. You see, literally, you can visually see the sheath layer itself present. You can see the little balls building out right on top of the sheath layer, okay? We can still see the rainbow on the inside. It needs a field outside of it. You notice we cannot find another level of the field on the outside to close the gap to make it into a satellite. It literally just needs that. You see on the upper right, the dark one. Understand this. Take a ruler to this picture. The dark one is mathematically equivalent in distance from the center of the RAV, which is the center one, to the other side where the plasma builds out. It is an equilibrium. Does the dark one have less energy? No. It has more energy. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm going to remove this just to tell you it. On any core built of ions, it goes dark. It looks black. Understand what I'm trying to tell you here. It is literally black. It would fall in behind everything that you looked at in the solar system until you got up close to it, and then it'd be a big black dot. The ions in there creating a tremendous amount of energy. Right now, it's in a healthy exchange with the other side of it through the actual center of it. So if you took that as the sun and you looked at it and you say, okay, we must have a gravitational mass on the black dot and on the little pink one. That's equilibrium. What is planet X? It's an anchor in our solar system that comes out as a black dot. They can't find it with their microscope because it's black. They're not attributing the right understanding to it. What happens when you turn the equilibrium off? What happens when the sun blasts out and goes away? All of the energy is pulling into the black dot. It's the anchor. It's trying to pull the light into it to get to a higher energy state. You then have a black hole effect. Why do we have black holes? Because there's an energy exchange going on in our sun. This is a Sumerian second sun. When you see the light part, you see the little black dot in every solar system. There it is. There's your answer. It's your anchor. And your energy exchange is the sun. It's exchanging the energy between all of it. And look at it. It's perfectly simple. We used a 360-degree sphere in the center to create our donut on the outside on one side. And on the inside, look at the way it's formed. It's completely different. Your equation cannot be the same on each side. This is written in stone. Thousands of years ago, this is in stone. They carved it in there. Your equation cannot be equal to each other in an energy exchange in equilibrium. Look at the picture. It is telling you one side looks completely different than the other, yet equal in energy. Where's all the energy concentrated? In the black dot. What is it pulling into the core? You think all the lines are going out. They're all coming in. All those lines are pulling into the core, making the left side of it. That's fascinating. It's literally telling you how it works. This is equilibrium. Mathematically, it would have another side and you get a donut, right? You say, well, we look at our magnetosphere and they draw a donut, each side being equal. So if I took the left side, I'd have to put it on the right side. That's the way I see our magnetosphere. But is it the way our magnetosphere works? No. No, it's not. They go out there and they put this in a figure 8 outside there. because they know it works differently. There's some kind of a plasmoid out there. I'm sure you've all seen the pictures. There's anomalies out there they're not telling you. They know that they're there. Huh. Equilibrium, not equals. Equilibrium. Fascinating how all that works, isn't it? It literally builds out that way. The key to the universe is right in front of us in a physics lab. Just not one that the mainstream has put up yet. Let's see another one. That's about the same one, a little more energetic. Hold on, let's look at this again. I just want you to notice something. You'll start to see the right side fade in and out. You see the little black dot, and then you won't. Real easy to see there. What about now? Where is it now? The higher state of energy looks like it's disappeared. Ultraviolet light to our eyes, to the cameras we build, is impossible to see. It has gone into a different light spectrum. Is it still there? We can clearly see the outline of it. Is it as strong as it was before? Absolutely not. What happened in the process? It got invisible to us. I can't zoom in on this one. Trust me, I'd love to. But you couldn't see it. It's telling you something. It's telling you that in the UV, that when we walk outside, there's probably a higher energy state we're not accounting for. But we know it's there because we know it's compressed oxygen that's going on around here. Nitrogen, oxygen, all those things in the atmosphere. You know, I always tell you things built out in layers and in resonance. And why can't you see them in the earth? You say, I should be able to walk outside and clearly see boundary zones. You do when you get to the cloud level. There's a clear boundary zone right there. That's not hard to see. All the clouds usually sit at a certain level. Sometimes they'll come through a little bit, and sometimes they won't. Isn't that strange? Go stand on top of a mountain. You can look from the top part of that boundary layer on top of them. Sure, you guys have seen plenty of movies like that, Bucket List, something like that. You get in there and you can see from the top of the mountain, the layer's clean. As we're looking up, that layer's still there. Isn't that interesting? What confuses people in physics on how things work on basically to the atomic mass of each one of the gases? It's ion wind. It's screwing everything up. It's the reason you can't see it. If you mix all the gases by the wind, you'll never know that they build out in layers. So you take a control experiment and you build it out. You put some water in there, you put an anode and cathode in there, you let it do its job. It breaks down the anode and cathode into minerals. And then what happens? It builds out in layers according to its atomic mass. Not a problem. Bernie does it all the time. What's missing in his jar? The wind that spins it. Once the wind that spins it's missing, you can see the full effect of what's going on. Every layer. That's if we could stop the wind for a second and I could show it to you, boom, you'd say harmonics all day long. Now I get it. 360-degree sphere, 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 sphere. Not hard. We can literally calculate where the spheres are inside of our Earth. Go to the Van Allen belt. Where is it building up radiation? What is the distance between each one of those in the Van Allen belt? Take that mathematical formula, plug it in. Now let's go to the inside of it and do it in reverse. We can literally calculate where each field is. Science doesn't deny this, by the way. They say, oh man, well, you got the mantle, you got the core, you got all these layers in there. How do they know where the layers stay? I mean, I want you to think about that. Why are the layers so perfectly rounded in a sphere, and why do they stay that way? Well, could be atomic mass. Each one is based on atomic mass going towards the core. Pretty interesting, right? You start to build out in layers. So what do we know? As there's an ionosphere, a magnetosphere, and a boundary zone above, it's also below. It's above, also below, and also below that till you get to the core. You see, it's not rings, it's spheres. You got to remember geometry. If it was rings, then everything would be in 2D. It's a sphere. Now we look at it the right way. You go, wow, this is so incredible. It's literally telling me it's building out this way. So if I take it far enough from the Earth, guess what I'm going to find? The level of a magnetosphere, which is going to be your sheath zone. Then it's going to go to a boundary layer. Then it's going to get to an ionosphere. In the exact same pattern it does above. And it's all predicted based on how the Van Allen belts work. It tells you going into the core exactly what it's going to be. But then again, every planet tells you that. And it's also telling you, hey, they build out in a different frequency. The different frequency gives you a different atomic weight. Think about that. Every frequency gives you a different atomic weight. Why? Because it builds out a different gas, a different color. Now it makes it easy. Now we're just throwing fish in the barrel. You know what I mean? We're not even going fishing for them. We're just throwing them in the barrel. We got them. It already told you it did it that way. This is one of the things that they don't call out the obvious. There must be a harmonic value between all of them in order to make it. But what do they say? Oh, it just does it. You didn't see the harmonics going on here? The different shells? No. I look at it and go, what's wrong with you? Why do you not see the harmonic value in this? Well, probably because they don't understand resonance can happen between two pipes. You can create a resonance value as soon as you move one pipe inside of another. They lost that. There's rarely a physicist that I talk to that can actually tell me that one. They don't know how resonance works. They don't understand it's all frequency based on the inner core versus the outer field, which is simply a Tesla coil. A lot of things, man, they don't understand nodes. When you create a Tesla coil and you create a secondary by itself, it creates a node right in the center. It creates a double vortex. It literally has to pull in the energy from around it. What happens when you do that in a geometrical pattern with the outside coils themselves? It creates a capacitance that goes on between them. And now you take your center one and you turn down the energy because the energy is too high. You literally have to turn it down because the coupling is too good. It starts to structure the air. If you take a hairpin circuit connected to a Rodin coil, the center of it gets cold. The outside creates entropy. It literally rotates it through. It is the understanding of the 3M experiment in a Rodin coil. It is a geometry coil understanding in the same way. It's all the same. Once you understand what part of it you're messing with, you now can have the whole entire thing open to you messing with the entire thing. I hope in my Tesla Tech presentation, when I give it and I show all the examples in the correct order, people will really understand it. Finally get over the whole thing, is this right, is this wrong? And there's going to be a whole league of morons out there that don't understand it. They don't get how energy works. They think you go and plug things into a wall and it's there. Heaven forbid they had to build it any other way. They think it's a battery, but then do they even understand how the battery works? I know a lot of people didn't understand it until they started to tell you the chemical processes in the acid. It's funny, isn't it? You don't really realize how things are actually working until somebody breaks it down the right way for you. And you all get it. Yeah. I don't know, guys. There's a lot to this. And once you crack it wide open, man, it's going to be no going back. I mean, if they let it out, if they don't shut down channels, if they don't do stuff like that. But then again, there's too many people out there giving them misinformation. They think they're giving proper physics. They go, man, I read the book. I'm reading it out of the book. It's just misinformation. You didn't do the work to find out if it was true or not. Huh. Oh, man. There's a lot of people out there, man, they don't understand this. Yeah, Paul, there's always a shadow on my eyes because I refuse to put on the light in front of my face. I absolutely cannot stand being blinded by talking on this mic. You know what? Maybe it looks like an extra pair of sunglasses. What's up, Phil? I'm just telling you guys things and how they work. Look, in every experiment I do, just understand this. I'm proving it out. I'm not playing games here. You know what I mean? I'm proving it out. That's the difference. I don't just talk. I build them. And I like to build things in very precise ways. I like them to look perfect, okay? Because I want no doubt. I want no doubt in if it works properly this way or that way. Huh. So, yeah, that's what's going to come up at Tesla Tech, man. We got about, what, 40 days, something like that, maybe 50, and then we'll be there. I actually got my health situation figured out, guys, and I'm on the mend right now. So you're going to start seeing some videos on my channel finally, right? So we'll start doing that. I'll start putting out some of my Tesla Tech presentation as I go, and we'll start working on things in a better fashion. But we're getting there, man. We have that device, man, working. I've been working with it for a while now. The one Lightspeed gave me, or went out there and we did the experiment. I shouldn't say that. The one he lent me so that I can do all this stuff. We're going to go out here and show it. I've been rebuilding the thing to hook up the sensors in the way I want them. And as soon as I'm done with that, man, I've already straightened out the oscilloscope on it. Got it all to match my oscilloscope. So we tested that out. That works perfect. We're going to test out the RPMs and everything and the motors on it, make sure that works perfect. Then we're going to move out for everything else there is on this to prove this out. The mirror, I have the whole thing for 3D printed out, the outside casing for it. We're going to set that up. We're going to be able to see the gas pressures and everything like that. Man, all right before Tesla Tech, it's crunch time, man. I couldn't have a better time for my health to turn around. So we're going to roll right into it. I get to be on the first day on Wednesday. I present, I think it's around 5 p.m., I think he said it was, is when I present. And that's going to be on the 12th of August. So 2 weeks in on August, man, I'll be up there presenting at Tesla Tech. And then hopefully people go out there, man, and they learn this stuff. They need field bubbles. They understand why it's working, what it is. And then I'm hoping they take that and put it into warp drives because I'll be honest with you, man, I want to go to Mars. I just want to look at it. Then to go back home. Be done. But that's, kind of one of the reasons I do this. It's always something in the back of your mind, something you want to accomplish. I put the thing so far out there. We'll see if they get it, but one of the things is we're gonna have to show that field, and we're gonna have to show it, what I mean, in every way that we can. You can't just put a light bulb in the air and say, "Hey, there's a field here." You got to be able to show it. So, anyway, guys, I want to thank everybody for listening today, man. I know Joe is usually here, and we have a good conversation going on. But family's over for the holiday, and I understand. I got family coming over myself, so it's just going to be fun, man. I'm excited for Tesla Tech. I'm excited it's going to be here. I'm not so excited about getting on an airplane. I hate airplanes. But, oh well. Contradictions and everything. All right, guys. Thank you all for showing up, man, and hanging out with me. I want to thank Darren, man, hooking me up, brother. I appreciate it. Give a $5 sticker, and then also Ulysses out there. 20 pounds, man. Thank you very much. Dude, you guys are awesome. You always take care of me in the show, man. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. Right on, Ian. Bug Irish out there, man. Awesome. So, all right, guys, have yourself a great night, man. Hopefully have a safe holiday as well. I hope to see you guys back here, man, next week when Joe's back, and we'll have some fun. Later on tonight on Abby Normal, we'll be over there doing that. And we're going to have Debunking is the show. And it's by Dan. Sorry, I can't remember the last name right now. The guy with a nice big beard like the rest of us. You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys have seen him out there. He's going to be on Abby Normal tonight. So he's going to be talking to us over there, man. So if you guys catch it later on the channel, man, that'd be awesome. We're going to have a great interview with him. It's going to be an awesome show. So that'll be Abby Normal tonight. You just got to find my channel and watch it again. Richards, yeah. Dan Richards. So, dude, that's going to be so awesome. I look forward to talking to him, man. I like his show, man. So, it'll be an awesome night, guys. Anyway, with that said, have yourself a great night.
The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put him in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.